G'day all, it's Colin from PC TLC and thanks for joining me. In this video I'm going to be looking at MX Linux again, but this time I'm looking at the KDE Plasma desktop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the installer and see whether I can dual boot this with the XFCE I installed on the Lenovo IdeaPad 110. That's the goal here, is to dual boot it with MX Linux with MX Linux. So I'm going to dual boot KDE with XFCE. I just want to see how the installer goes when it comes to that. There was a little piece in the installer that I missed in my previous videos that I wanted to check out. So I'm going to do that. The other thing is, I don't know, I had a bit of a whinge to Dolphin. I think it was while we were on Big Daddy Linux Live, I think, and I told him that the ISOs to download for MX Linux were really slow, and it took me a day or two or something. It was just, the speeds were just so slow. I don't know what he's done, but he's worked his magic, because since that day, or I think the day after, that the speeds have been fantastic downloading MX Linux. So don't know if there was an issue that the MX team was unaware of. That could be the case, but definitely the downloads are pretty quick. So I don't know what Dolphin's done, but good magic there, mate. So let's have a look at dual booting MX Linux KDE Plasma Beta 2 with the MX Linux XFCE Beta 1. So let's get on with that. So here we are on the desktop of MX21 Beta 2 KDE Plasma desktop. We got the traditional MX Linux welcome. I did do a video on MX Linux 21 Beta 1. And then I think while I was making that, the Beta 2 come out. So I thought, why not test the Plasma desktop? And let's just have another look at this installer and see how it's going. And let's do a dual boot with MX21 Beta 2 KDE Plasma and dual boot it with MX Linux Beta 1 XFCE. So let's do that. I'm not sure how this is going to go. Hopefully all successful. So I have not tried this at all in VirtualBox or anything, so I'm just going to see how I go here. Now, first of all, we probably need to... Okay, so I missed something there. It's either regular install using the entire disk or customize the disk layout, which is what I'm going to do. Now, this SDB here is the live USB that I'm running from now, so we don't want to touch that. Now, what we've got here is a breakdown of the MX21 Beta with the XFCE. So we're going to need to take some of this disk space. Now, I was looking around in the installer yesterday on VirtualBox, and I did not realize in the first video I made that you've got a refresh button here. I was just a bit excited in trying out the just trying out the installer itself and how different it was. So I got a bit excited about that and missed a couple of things. So this one here, if you add a USB, you can or another disk, you can refresh and reload the layouts of all drives there. And this one here is the partition management. So whatever's on the system itself, which in this case is the KDE Partition Manager. Now, I'm not overly familiar with this manager, I have to say. I have used it a couple of times, but I only use it every now and then. So what I need to do is resize and move. So I suppose that wouldn't be too hard. Now, the biggest chunk of this disk is the home. So I suppose I'm going to click on the home partition and take some of that. So let's resize and move that bit there. So resize or move partition, that's what I'm going to do. So the size is 400 gig, that's what it's saying. So the size we want it is, let's just say we'll steal maybe 120 gig from that. So let's go 120. So it doesn't let me get rid of that. 120. So free space before size and free space after. I don't know what the advanced button does. We don't really need that. So let's click OK on that. So now we've got, oh no, that's the size of, that's undo that. Yeah, okay, so let's try that again. I think I misinterpreted that, the free space before. So the size of this one here will make that 280. And that's okay that, and that should give us about 120 gig. So there we go. So the existing MX home has gone from 400 to 270 odd, and my unallocated space here will be 129 gig. So let's apply that. Shrink partition SDA4 from 390 to 273, apply that. Let's do that. So all operations are successfully finished. Now I'm going to break this down and the same as I did before. Now I'm interested to see how the installer handles that. So let's create our partitions in this partition manager here. It'll be a primary. I want it to be a FAT32. It's going to be EFI boot. I want it to be 512 megabytes and OK. And then we'll create another new one. Don't need to create swap because it should more than likely use this existing swap. I'm pretty sure that's how Linux works. So normally when I've got a whole heap of Linux distros, I only ever have one swap partition. And every time you start up, it'll recognize that swap partition. That's the way I know it as. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So let's go new. I want a size of, let's see, 61440 is an exact 60 gig. So let's try that. Okay. There's our 60 gig. So that'll be, I forgot to put a label on that. So that's properties. Can we go to properties? Label. Be ext4 and that'll be root. Okay. And then this one, that'll be a new one. ext4. Label will be home. Let's make another home for that one. And we'll use the rest of that disk and say OK. And let's apply that and apply that. Operations successfully finished. Okay, now we can close the partition manager. Okay, so we have an EFI boot here. So our new ones are our 60 gig here. So that's my EFI boot. Be ESP. And that there, that should be fine. No mount options there. This one will be root ext4. And this one will be home. I'm not going to encrypt anything at the moment. We'll go next. So it's saying SDA1 is already selected for EFI system partition. SDA1, which is the original MX Beta with the XFCE desktop. So maybe in this case we don't need a second one to handle our boot manager for the KDE desktop. So let's deselect that one there. It's only 512 megabytes. We'll just leave it there. And let's click next and see what happens there. SDA6 to be used for root. SDA7 is home. Is that correct? Yep. So SDA6 is root and SDA7 is home. Okay, these actions cannot be undone. And SDA1 is EFI. So it picks up that there's an existing EFI system partition. So it's going to use that one. Yes. And we're already ESP, SDA1. Yep, so we can go next. Computer name, MX21 KDE. And we'll leave that this time. I won't change the domain name. Let's click next. Australia English, or the locale is Australian English anyway. The time zone, we are in Australia and Perth, wherever that is. Perth, there we go. And I like to use 24-hour clock. And next. username. Oh no, it's username, isn't it? User login name, sorry, not username. So that's just all lowercase and no gaps. And password. And you can use a root administrator account. Now I've got to remember now, if I leave that blank, does that give me sudo access? I think it does when you're installing Debian. So I'd have to assume that we leave that blank to have sudo access, I believe. And no, me, I'll choose the wrong one. Doesn't matter what I choose. It will be the wrong one. So let's just leave that. I can always add myself to the sudo file, which I don't do very often. I'll probably have to look up how to do that. You can choose auto login and you can save live desktop changes. So if you've made any changes to the live desktop and you've put the panel up the top, you changed the position of the clock and added some shortcuts down in the panel, then those changes will carry over to your freshly installed desktop. That's the same with MX Linux XFCE, and it's also the same here in KDE. So let's click next. And that is the system installed. So no, we're not going to automatically reboot because I need to save my video. And what I'm going to do is get out the trusty Oppo phone and we'll have a look and see what's going on and what options are available on the grub boot screen. So I shall see you in the grub boot screen. Okay, so we are going to boot the computer and see what we have on the boot screen or the grub boot menu for MX Linux. And what do we have here? We have MX21 Wildflower and MX21 on SDA3. Okay, so which one's which? So according to my video, SDA3 was the original, so MX21 on the top of the list there should be my KDE desktop. So let's do that. And I think I'll just run through them both to be sure. But I'm assuming this will be the KDE desktop that's booting. And that is definitely a KDE login screen. Pretty fancy splash screen there. And there we have the desktop of MX Linux 21 Beta 2 KDE desktop. Let's shut that down and quickly boot. Let's do a restart, this one here. Reboot, yep, okay. And we're going to go for the SDA3, which should be the XFCE desktop. And definitely that is the XFCE desktop. And there we go. So there you have a dual boot of MX Linux. Let's shut that down and go back to the desktop of KDE. So here we are on the desktop of MX Linux 21 Beta 2 KDE post-install. Just noticed something that when I was just looking around on the desktop, when I click on the file manager, that icon disappears and becomes the button on the or the Windows button, I suppose you would call it, on the panel. And then when you close it, it reappears. I don't know if that's normal behavior or whether there's a setting for that. I've never noticed that before in KDE, to be honest. Bit bizarre, but maybe that's normal behavior and I've never noticed it before. Not that I use KDE that often. So just wanted to have a quick look what's in here. You've got your usual MX tools, which are here on the side. All I've done is installed codecs, just in case I needed them for simple screen recorder. And you got your MX tools there, which is, I'd have to think all the same as what's in the XFCE desktop. MX package installer there, so not a problem either. Got some window managers there if you want one. I think they've got desktop environments too. So a few there. So there's your main two shortcuts there. You also got LibreOffice, Conky Toggle, MX User Manual, Console, KSysGuard, and Quick System Information. Let's check that out. Okay, let's full screen that. So that's the system info there. It was shown in my last video. Don't know if they got system profiler in here or not. Quick system info. That's just what we just looked at, was it? Yeah. Okay, so that's the report copied to system clipboard. Okay, so that's the system there. And that's it there. In XFCE, they had the system profiler benchmark thing. I can't remember what it's called. It's got another name. So graphics, we have Digicam, GIMP, GwenView, LibreOffice, Nomax, Internet, Firefox, KDE Connect, KDE Connect SMS, KTorrent, Thunderbird. It's good to see people putting Thunderbird in the KDE desktop. It's probably the better one, I would think. That's my opinion anyway. What do we got? Elsa Mixer, Clementine, GUVC, View, K3B. I installed Simple Screen Recorder. And one thing I forgot to mention is if you do make changes to the desktop, and I said that those changes are carried on over into the fresh install. Also, the same with anything you do install, because I didn't have to install Simple Screen Recorder again. It's there already after you've installed it, because I installed it prior to installing the system. So you don't have to install it again. It's already there. So that's very handy indeed. VLC and Webcamoid, MX Tools. So you've got a list of MX Tools there besides opening up the MX Tools here. You've got a list there. Got your Office suite there. And your settings as well. I think they're all the same as what was in the XFCE. Obviously, they're going to be different settings for the desktop environment, obviously. Got system there. And it comes with this K-Wallet Manager. Now, I'm not a fan of this K-Wallet Manager. I'm the first to admit. However, it's in there, but it doesn't seem to pop up as much as it used to. Then again, maybe because I haven't used Firefox yet. We'll see about that. We've got Midnight Commander in here, Yarquake, which is a drop-down terminal. I'd assume it drops down from the top. There we go. Close that. And you got some utilities there as well. Midnight Commander. So that's all the things installed in the KDE desktop. Let's open Firefox and see. Even Firefox disappears when you open it. That's bizarre. And there we go. It doesn't appear to be any nagging from K-Wallet Manager as far as I can see, so that's all good. Help and about Firefox 91.02, and also let's check out the Office suite and see what versions we're up to there. I think it'll be the same as the XFCE, which was 7.1.04, I think, something like that. 7.0.4.2, okay. And down here we've got a little dot there that indicates that there's some updates. And in KDE, they're using the Discover. Discover is also another way of installing applications. So updates there, so we can update all. All updates selected. So let's just update all those there. Put in our password. And there's our about info there, KDE Plasma 5.20.5, Frameworks 5.78, Qt version 5.15.2, kernel version 5.10. So that's the system information there. That's the info center. And looks like we're almost done installing everything there. And we are up to date. So let's close that. Let's check the info center again. Info center still looks the same, so I just thought I'd check that after an update. And let's just see if htop is installed. It normally is htop. And we're running 1.0 0.02 gigs at the moment of memory. Yes, I am using Simple Screen Recorder. We've got to remember that. So what I might do is a fresh boot, take a couple of screenshots just to see what KDE is running there. So I've done a fresh boot of MX Linux, and we get 617 on a fresh boot. But when you're trying to take a screenshot, if you press the print screen button, you get this K-snip tool, and that seems to up it quite a fair bit, up to about 700 and something like that. But on fresh boot at 617. Now I'm running a few things, it's up to 800. So what I've noticed is if I'm running something here and if I open my file manager and I go to my pictures and I open a screenshot, it might be in my home actually, it's in my home. So if I double click and open a screenshot, it actually opens up behind this window, which is a bit odd. So I've got to reduce or minimize that window to have a look at the screenshot that I took. Oh, well, actually, I'm double clicking. I probably shouldn't be. So that's not good. But if I open that up and single click, it's probably because I'm double clicking. That's why. Let's try that again. Double click. And it opens up behind. So that's my, that's a user error. Okay, so single click opens it at the front because everything's single click on here. Okay, so that's my error. So I was wondering why that was happening. So if you're double clicking, it's your fault, not KDE's. So that was MX Linux after a fresh boot with the K-snip running, I think there. You can see the K-snip. See the K-snip down there, yeah. The other thing is fresh boot, internet's not connected automatically. Now, I don't have to put my password in anymore, but it's not connected. So normally, I think in XFCE, when you boot in, the internet's automatically connected, but on the KDE desktop, I have to click connect. Now, no password required, but it's just not connected automatically. Now, I don't know if that's the intended behavior or not, but that's just something I've noticed. And those icons disappearing when you open something, I find a bit odd. I'm not sure if that's normal behavior or not as well. The internet one, I'm not sure about whether that's intended behavior for that to be disconnected, maybe for security reasons, I don't know. And I'm still not sure about the icons down here. I think it's KDE, so you can probably tweak that and change that behavior, I'd think. But I'm just looking around. I'm not going to go digging through settings to find how to change that behavior. I haven't checked out the calendar yet, but KDE always has a nice calendar. You got your internet there, microphone. Okay, there's a right click option to mute. Doesn't do anything on the left click. Battery and display brightness and so forth. Sound. And this is always, the sound seems to work very well on here now. What I noticed is default, the speakers were Yeti stereo, so I just clicked on built-in audio and speakers are working fine. And up the sound on the microphone, make sure my voice is coming through okay. And this clipboard there, a couple of, that was just that info that was posted. How about we have a look at that if we can. Edits, let's just click on that and see what it does. Nothing. Show barcode, edit contents. If we go to edit, we can see what that system info was. Okay. Just delete those two there, I think. Right click on here, we've got new instance, move to desktop, more actions, pin to task manager and close. And here we've got a shortcut for system settings. So the icons disappear and turn into a window button. I'm not sure if that's normal behavior, but it just seems a bit odd to me. So how do we do a new instance? Probably from here, start a new instance. Okay, so right click and start a new instance. And you close that, and then the icon is back. Okie dokes. And there's your KDE system settings to tweak your KDE desktop in every way, shape and form. And KDE allows you to do that if that's what you like. You like to tweak to your heart's content. KDE will allow you to do that. So that was MX Linux 21 Beta 2 with the KDE Plasma desktop, installed in a dual boot situation with MX Linux Beta 1 with the XFCE desktop, and a quick look around the Plasma desktop. So I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it interesting and informative, and thanks for watching.